welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of December 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using, what am I using here? The Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before the reading begins, if it resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there is a link to an extended which is accessible in the description box below. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Right, I think we should just crack straight on with this. So let's flip the the camera and ask for 3 cards for Virgo, please. 3 cards for Virgo. Right, ooh, we have double kings in your recent past. I'll just pop those there. And what about current energy, please, for Virgo? Ooh, Ace of Wands in reverse. All right. And what's coming towards Virgo, please, for December? Oh, gosh, they're all hopping out today. 10 of Swords. The 2 of Swords is at the bottom of the deck. And I think it's fairly safe to say that what's going on here is best laid plans going awry somewhat, a little bit, Virgo. Now, I wouldn't panic too much. We've got Mars going into retrograde very, very shortly, and Mercury is currently in retrograde. And when by the time Mars moves out of shadow, we're back in another Mercury retrograde, right? So don't worry too much about things not taking off or not actioning the way that you were kind of hoping them to do, because this is an energy that's kind of affecting people right across the board. It is what it is, right? Now, let me straighten these cards up a little bit, because what are we doing here, right? Let's get these like this. So, a rather abortive attempt to get things up and running is kind of how I would view what's going on here. Look at that, I've cut the deck and I've got the 2 of Swords underneath there as well. Now, although this can be incredibly frustrating, generally speaking, retrograde energy is here to help us do things better, right? Ensure more of a likelihood of success than we might have got the way around that we were intending to do things. But let's get some clarifiers out, and then we will look at these best laid plans that you've been on with, and quite why it is that things seem to be unraveling a little bit. Tell me about the King of Pentacles and the King of Wands, please. Why are these here for Virgo? We have the Wheel of Fortune. Very interesting. Oh, we have the Knight of Wands and the World card, both up on their side. Oh goodness, a little hiccup. Tell me about the Ace of Wands. Why is this here in the reverse? Thank you. We've got the 2 of Cups. And the Queen of Cups. And then what about the 10 of Swords? Why is this here? We've got the 5 of Pentacles. And the 10 of Pentacles on their side. 7 of Swords is at the bottom of the deck, which is quite uncomfortable. Sorry, Virgo, I'm going to have to take my jumper off. Getting really, really warm. Oh, goodness, it's much cooler without the jumper. Right. I don't know if that's going to end up being a little bit too cold. Okay, so, like I said, best laid plans going awry somewhat. Now, I'm not going to pretend that the energy that I'm seeing here is in any way comfortable, because it doesn't look like it at all. We have the King of Pentacles and the King of Wands, who together make for a very powerful pairing, because we have the long-term strategic planning of the King of Pentacles, that more delayed gratification in terms of what we want to build and where we want to build it, and you know, the time frame to which we're doing this. And we have the King of Wands in a more immediate sense, giving us the stamina and the drive and the chutzpah, really, I guess, the energy required to see something out. They work very strongly together, because they are, you know, the power and the creativity in the moment, and the delayed gratification of what it is that we're trying to achieve moving forwards out there, which should be a symbol of success, a dual symbol of success. But we have the Wheel of Fortune underneath there, and then the Knight of Wands and the World card, and these are on their sides. In fact, there are a number of cards that are appearing on their sides, which can either speak to a transition of the card from upright to reversed or vice versa, or it can be speaking to energy that is there but not yet being tapped into, right? It's kind of presenting itself for you. Now, the fact that the World card is on its side says to me that despite your best laid plans, it seems to me that there is a cycle that has not yet fully completed, and it must be allowed to run its course before you can start moving forwards into the next cycle. Deeply frustrating, but the World card is a card of Saturn, and so in that way that Saturn does, he will make you go back and do things again and again and again until you've got them right. That rarely feels like a comfortable endeavour, I have to say, as somebody whose chart is literally ruled by Saturn. But it does mean that when the rewards come, they really have come because we've done it the best way that we possibly could. The Knight of Wands on its side is a very interesting addition to this picture. Just like the Wheel of Fortune, the Knight of Wands is somewhat Jupiterian in nature, right? They both talk about Sagittarius. And the energy of Sagittarius is very expansive, very positive, very optimistic, and it's very forward-facing, I think it's fair to say. Sometimes it's sideways facing because, Sagittarius can be all over the place at any given point, always working to their own particular plan that isn't necessarily visible from the outside, right? But there are a couple of things that we can look to interpret this Knight of Wands. And I just want to run through what those are, right? Both upright and reversed, so we can kind of see what it is that the energies are pointing us to. There's an interesting thing. Saturn and Jupiter not squaring each other at the moment. I think this is a transit that's kind of on off for about 10 months. Okay, so just stick a pin in that. That might show up as relevant later. The Knight of Wands in the upright, in its best presentation, is the ability to live in the moment, right? It's being responsive, it's being flexible, fun-loving, adventurous, all those kind of things, right? It's actually being quite bold as well, and full of courage and whatnot, as you would expect from both the King of Wands and the Knight of Wands. In its more negative presentation in the upright, it can indicate a certain amount of recklessness, possibly thoughtlessness. Ideas of consequence not really being something that comes up too much with the Knight of Wands. Now, when it shows up in the reverse, sometimes it's talking about, that recklessness that we were talking about, but sometimes it's talking about how we are not being fully present in the moment. The fact that it's lying on its side means it feels almost like an energy that is charging into something that either the full consequences of which have not been fully explored or and understood, possibly, or that we're kind of taking our eye off what is going on in the moment, and that's sort of where it needs to be. Now, the Wheel of Fortune is interesting because this has been coming up for quite a few signs over the course of the December readings. And almost all of them have had this feeling that something has been set in motion already. And the fact that the World card is on its side here, right, it's not fully reversed. It's not saying, no, there's no end in sight at all. It's just saying this is kind of pushed a little bit further back. There's a cycle that's not being completed, and it must be. Because if I can just bring these cards to your attention properly, right, I'll just put them on my hand so that you can see them. You'll see that they're actually very similar. What we've got is the 4 fixed signs sitting in the corner. So that's Aquarius, Taurus, Leo and Scorpio. And in this version, we have books. All of these archetypes, all of these signs, they're reading books. In this one here, we have these more realized, evolved version of the fixed signs showing up, right? And that would be very much in alignment with what we understand the Fool's journey to be, which is, a process of a cycle that runs from a stage of absolute innocence and naivete through to wisdom and maturity on the other end. Now, because these are so similar in terms of the depiction of the 4 fixed signs and stuff, we need, and these books are the thing that really cracked this card for me. There is a transition that happens by way of learning something that we were really supposed to learn, right? You consider it somewhat of a save point, right? Where when something clicks, when we have learned a thing, then our development is kind of accelerated. And we know that from this point on, just like the save point in a computer game, that even if we stumble moving forwards, we will only ever come back to this point. Now, what this is saying to me is that there is a teaching moment, there has been a teaching moment for you that has shown you that perhaps you are not ready for the end of this cycle. Or maybe the issue is that you were not aware that you were not ready for the end of the cycle, and something has occurred that has acted like a blockage or an obstacle to something that you've been trying to bring about, something that you've been actively engaged in for a long time. With these 2 kings saying, no, Virgo, not yet, not this way, not like that, right? That Saturnian energy of no, no, no. Now, the reason why this gets a little bit frustrating is that we have Jupiter in the mix, and Jupiter always wants to expand, always wants to make things bigger, and that isn't always necessarily the best thing, although it's known as the Great Benefic, right? And with these 2 planets kind of rubbing along against each other, which is, causing friction with each other, which is what a square does astrologically, it forces growth. What it doesn't say is that, well done, you've done everything that you needed to and now you can expand at will. It says, no, you can expand, but not quite the way that you wanted to, not at this speed, not in this way. You have to go back and do something here again. When we come into your current energy, we've got the Ace of Wands reversed. Now, aces reversed mean, an iron door slamming shut in your face when you thought you were about to go off in a direction, and it says, no, you can't. It's not happening. What I wonder as I'm looking at that card is whether this Ace of Wands is actually indicating a rather crushed spirit, right? We put all our eggs into the possibility of moving forwards with this, and the planets said no, life said no, the universe said no, back to the drawing board, go back, do it again, all that kind of thing. Because the Ace of Wands is a lot to do with creativity and passion. Sometimes it's to do with changed behaviours and things like that, a resolution to behave differently in certain circumstances. And it feels to me like it would be a bit of a crushed spirit to see this card reversed. We've got the 2 of Cups and the Queen of Cups here. And was there not an issue a few months ago with you, Virgo, with somebody who was on a completely different page to you in terms of what the next move forwards was going to be? I do feel like we talked about that just a few months ago. Because we have this 2 of Cups here, so we're talking about an intimate relationship. It doesn't have to be boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, anything like that. It can be business partner, it can be close friend, it could be all manner of different relationship, right? But what they have in common is a certain level of intimacy in this sphere that you don't have with other people. And then we've got the Queen of Cups on her side. Now, this isn't really a good place for the Queen of Cups to be. We like to see the Queen of Cups in the upright, particularly when she's here with the 2 of Cups, because she's an energy of deep giving, of deep love, of deep nurturing. It represents Cancer, so it's a very nurturing energy. But it feels kind of smothery that way around, right? And definitely in the reverse, it's very smothery. It feels like either a complete withdrawal from someone, from the relationship, or a withdrawal by you from some aspect of a relationship, right? Because the relationship's still standing, it's there, but the Queen of Cups is no longer, in her upright and in her good energy supporting this. She's showing up rather deflated. Tell me about these Cups cards, please. Whoa, okay. Right, we have the Son of Wands, which is the Knight of Wands, showing up again, and we have the Five of Wands. Now this is important because this card represents Saturn. Again, this is now Saturn in Leo. And we have, again, the energy of the Knight of Wands, who always wants to drive forwards, always. Not mad keen on going backwards, this Knight of Wands. And this time he's in the upright and he's galloping around. And so are we deeply in the moment and questioning what we were intending to do? Having felt iron doors slamming in the face in terms of the future direction that we wish to travel. Right? Are we careering around in a kind of chaotic and reckless state? Or are we becoming just a little bit hyper-focused on what is going on right now to the exclusion of the bigger picture? I don't think that's necessarily true, because I don't think Virgo is ever going to lose sight of the detail of things. It's not like Virgo to get lost in the bigger picture. But there is conflict here. Now, it could be that there's conflict quite literally with a Sagittarius. That could be one way of seeing this. But it could also be that the conflict is internal. Either way, it's having a knock-on effect with a relationship. It's having a knock-on effect with the way that people are showing up in the relationship, and it's sort of crushed the spirit out of all of this. Maybe crushed the creativity, maybe crushed the enthusiasm for what it is that's going on. I mean, we've got the Ten of Swords at the bottom of the deck here, echoing this Ten of Swords, or maybe acting as some sort of future echo of the Ten of Swords that is here. Now, these are of a very different quality. I just want to point that out. I mean, this one here is absolutely, visually very jarring, I think, and extremely uncomfortable and painful. This one is of a very different quality altogether. But both of them talk about endings of some description. Now, in all likelihood, an ending that is represented by this is not a comfortable one, and it definitely leans into more of those uncomfortable interpretations of the Ten of Wands, Ten of Swords, beg your pardon, that we are accustomed to, such as humiliation, betrayal, these kind of things. This does not talk about that. That talks about wisdom and completion that comes through, maturity and all those kind of things. In fact, things much of a Saturn nature. Let me just pull another card for this Ace of Wands. Oh, it's another reversal. I saw it drift. Six of Wands in reverse with the Six of Cups now at the bottom of the deck. Now, when the Six of Wands shows up in reverse, Jupiter has lost the battle, because this is Jupiter in Leo. Saturn in Leo is upright, Jupiter in Leo is reversed. There is no victory. It does not feel like we are winning when the Six of Wands shows up in the reverse. And this absolutely confirms for me exactly what I was feeling about that Ace of Wands there. It's like everything feels like it's sort of falling apart a little bit. And I would understand why you would feel like that, but I would draw your attention to these two cards over here that we haven't even looked at yet. Seven of Swords, Two of Swords. Now, the Two of Swords is a card for me of a blind spot, right? It speaks of where we are missing something. In this instance, in this card, literally missing a face. Got two in the hand. Which one are we going to choose? And this blind spot can be caused by psychological screening that our subconscious does, right, where it simply does not allow us to see something that is kind of there, right, and a really important piece of the puzzle. Or it can talk to points where, for whatever reason, we are choosing to ignore the signals that are coming from our emotions about something and try to deal only with hard, cold logic and facts. And see how she's kneeling on these two swords here. But whichever way around it is, the Two of Swords lets us know that what this is going on inside of us, right? And that may well be being expressed outside of us, for sure. The outside world being a mirror for what is going on inside. But this Seven of Swords, which can sometimes talk about deceit and dishonesty and whatever, it also talks about the way that we deceive ourselves. And I can't help but feel like there's something here, possibly from your past, because we have the Six of Cups there, that has somewhat scuppered plans that you'd had. And I don't know if this is because of it's been a skipped step for you, Virgo. It's almost like in your hurry to get out of the cycle that you're in, you've missed something really important. And this is very uncharacteristic for you. Right? To behave like a Sagittarius is very uncharacteristic for you, right? And it may well be that you're not. It may be that there is a Sagittarius or somebody exhibiting Sagittarius-like qualities who is involved in the mix here somewhere. But whatever it is, there's conflict. The conflict could be with you internally. I am conflicted that this is maybe not the right way, and you kind of talked yourself out of something. That's entirely possible. Kind of talking yourself back to a stalemate, if you will. Now I can't move in either direction because I have analysis paralysis, right? That's definitely a thing that Virgos have struggled with. And that would definitely take your enthusiasm for what you were going to do off the boil. Whether this is active conflict with someone else, which is entirely possible because we have the Two of Cups under there, that has you second guessing whether any of what you have planned is really right for you moving forwards. Now, when we move into the energy of December, that feels well, there's no sugarcoating it, Virgo. That feels really quite uncomfortable, but it does feel like it has some sort of silver lining. And the silver lining is this. It is this Ten of Swords, which for me is how can I put it? It's a super accurate way of interpreting the lessons of the Ten of Swords. It's like, yes, it does accompany situations that are going to make our hair a little bit grey, give us a few more wrinkles. But, you know, within this card, we have two depictions of wisdom and maturity. We have this older gentleman here. Yeah, it's got looking a little frazzled around the edges. He's got a few wrinkles on his face. And we also have this owl, right? The swords are actually in the feathers of the owl. I don't know if that's terribly clear. Let me show you that. Right. But what's really striking about this card is the way that the pair of them are maintaining eye contact, right? They're neither of them are flinching away from what it is that they're experiencing. And in all likelihood, it's been trying, right? Maybe it continues to be trying. But I always think with this version of the Ten of Swords that there's an underlying wisdom that is starting to emerge with it, right? Where we see the point of what Saturn has been trying to teach us. Now, like I said before, the Ten of Swords represents an end of some description. And certainly we've got kind of ends showing up here, but not really of the sort that you were aiming for. And then we have these two Pentacles cards down here. Now the Five of Pentacles is a card of loss. It's a card of isolation. It's a card of, tarot readers say, being left out in the cold, right? But I think it's often, for me, it's a card of working out what your basic needs are and then working out whether they've been met in any kind of thing. And principally by you and the situations that you put yourself into. Often when this card shows up, it says we've been trying to do something by way of abandoning our basic needs, right? We've pushed those to the side in favour of something else, and we have missed details. We've missed something that was really important. And it could well be, Virgo, that really important thing is you. But it can also talk to a fear of those things rather than them happening in actuality. And fear will make us make all sorts of interesting decisions. Now, the Ten of Pentacles, generally speaking, in the upright is a good card. It's another card that represents an end because it's a 10. You know, there are some interesting 10s over the course of this reading. But it speaks to stability and security. It talks to heritage. It speaks about our home and our business and all those kind of things. But it's not in the upright. It's sideways. Now, it is not reversed. And if it were reversed, we could expect a certain sense of personal anarchy, you know, being going on, where nothing is really ordered in the way that we would like it to be, and it feels like everything is kind of falling apart. It's not doing that, but it is on its side. And I think with the preceding fear of loss that is going on here, and then double Ten of Swords showing up, and a feeling like we're not winning over here, it's like everything's looking a little bit grim at the moment, right? But like I said, that Ten of Swords there feels somewhat like salvation. Now, the Six of Cups, which is a card that deals with the past, is pretty on point and has been showing up actually quite a lot over the course of the December readings, because it's a card that comes up quite commonly during retrograde periods. It's like, no, you need to go back, revisit some aspect of your past. Now, I'm not sure if this Ten of Pentacles is on its side because you fear it to be so, or it's on its side and this is what's causing this, right? There's a certain instability, even though it's not falling down yet. There's a certain instability around all things Ten of Pentacles in nature. And I do feel like the whole of this month is finding a way to look for the underlying wisdom of the lesson that is being taught to you. Now, it's kind of the last thing that we tend to be looking for when we've got Five of Pentacles and Tens of Swords showing up, Ace of Wands in reverse, Six of Wands in reverse. But that doesn't make the lesson go away. Nine of Swords. And the Fool. Now, this is where we start to hit breakthrough kind of energy, right? Because we have the Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now, the Four of Wands is the creation of a new foundation. It's that newly sprung or newly funneled creative energy into making a foundation for us that is actually filled with joy and wonder and all the things that we love about, you know, good old Four of Wands suit. It's about togetherness, it's about harmony, sometimes it's the marriage card. But I think everything hinges on this Nine of Swords. Because the Nine of Swords, and it's an ugly, ugly card. I mean, it really is. Again, another very visually jarring card. Makes us ask the question, is everything as bad as we think it is? Now, it's entirely possible that the answer might be yes to that. But it's equally possible with the Nine of Swords that the answer might be no. Because at its heart, the Nine of Swords talks about perception. And it's always asking us the question, you know, are we really seeing things as they actually are? Are we reacting with fear? Are we in a state of anxiety? You know, what is it that we're actually doing? Have we actually got everything nailed down? Are we managing our minds, or is our mind running away with us? Now, as a sign, you have a certain predisposition to overthinking things, and we know that overthinking things generally doesn't turn out well for anyone. But the card that is here next to it is the Fool. So we've got things looking very, very bleak indeed over the course of December. But we also have this lingering possibility that we're looking for the things to catastrophize. and that perhaps things aren't nearly as bad as we think that they are. You know, the energy of Saturn, like I said, it's a fucking ball ache. It's go back, do it again and again and again. It's like that teacher you fucking hated at school. And then, you know, you get through an exam and you do better than predicted, better than expected, and it just gives you a nod, like, yeah, knew you could do it. Saturn is the teacher who will not let you get away with anything at all, because he can see the potential in you and he wants you to reach it. Now, everyone would prefer to have Jupiter energy at play on them all of the time, because it just feels nicer, right? It's not so uncomfortable. But I don't feel like Jupiter particularly bestows wisdom. he's the planet that's supposed to be associated with wisdom. But if you look back into the mythology of Jupiter and Zeus and all that kind of thing, like this, he, in either form, spends most of his time fucking up and making mistakes, which is really, really interesting, right? And as much as we don't want Saturn as a taskmaster, he is the one who will make sure that things are done properly. Now, you have the Four of Wands and you have the Fool, and this does suggest that there are things that need reassessing. And that would be very much of the order of a Mercury retrograde, right? And it may be stationing direct on the 15th of December, but actually the rest of December is taken up by the shadow period. I don't think it fully moves clear of shadow until about the 3rd of January. Now, what you wanted was the Fool. What you wanted was to try and tie up some old cycle. The Fool being here actually says that isn't very far away, but something needs to be mastered first. Now, it could be that the universe has thrown you a curveball to see how you will deal with it, because there's an opportunity here to show how you have grown and show how you will graduate through this, right? And it's not expecting everything to just work perfectly. And so if you're thrown a curveball, are you going to field that curveball and be adaptable and flexible? Or are you going to spiral and overthink and catastrophize and see things as potentially more fucked than they actually are? I do feel like this is the crux of December for you. And that doesn't sound like it's particularly fun, but it at the same time, like, you are so close to what you desire. It's just asking you to take a little step back and look again. Reassess, reevaluate. Take responsibility where required, because Saturn will always want you to take responsibility. But the energy of Jupiter would ask you to remain hopeful. And somewhere along the line, you seem to me to have lost your hope. Now, that Seven of Swords makes a lot of sense down there then, because just as this is known as the Thief card, and we've got him running away with these swords over here, right? The Seven of Swords is perhaps in this case a thief of joy. There's too many swords, too much thinking. You know, this could come down to how you manage conflict resolution within yourself or with someone else. It could come down to how you maintain a sunny outlook when everything looks like it's going south. These would be the sort of lessons that Jupiter and Saturn would in tandem tag team you on. Virgo, I would put it to you that if things are looking bleak, it is your perspective that is causing that. And that if you were able to control your mind, not a lot, but just a bit, in order to look back and take a different viewpoint on this, you might actually see you're much closer to what you desire than you are further away from it, right? But the choice is yours. At this point, you get to decide which way this goes down. You could think about this in terms of a test, if you chose to. I don't generally enjoy that analogy terribly, but it helps people understand it sometimes. When you're working for what you want, the universe will often throw you things that you don't want, just to check that you're actually ready for the thing that you do want. Or it gives you an opportunity to refine or to hone or to reevaluate whether this is actually what you really want. It's all hinging on the perception this month, Virgo. And I'm not saying that you have to sag about the place and be an eternal optimist in the face of the apocalypse or something like that, right? Which generally Sagittarius seem to be quite good at. But it is asking you to attach to something more spiritually useful, which is faith. That's very much within the remit of Jupiter. And if your faith allows you to work through issues without catastrophizing and allowing yourself to spiral, then that would very much please Saturn as well. This is really interesting, Virgo. It's very interesting. I don't enjoy the fact that it's uncomfortable for you, but like I said, I think you are very, very close to what you want. Yes. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go over to the extended now because I really want to dig around in this a little bit because this is very, very interesting to me. I haven't seen any other sign quite so clearly showing the dynamic between these two planets going on as I'm seeing here. So I want to dig around in that a little bit. If you would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that via Circle, you can do that via Vimeo. Links for both are in the description box. But if this is where we part ways, that's absolutely fine. Just please allow what I said to kind of, rattle around in your head a little bit. Even if it's just enough to make you catch yourself and check your perspective. Am I catastrophizing? Is this actually in front of me now as a problem, or is this just something that I perceive coming down the road? Am I borrowing grief against tomorrow in order to experience it today? Because that's a big no-no. Just these little thoughts and these little interruptions will do a lot to help you navigate December a little bit more easily. Because this looks like it looks like this huge, great edifice of a challenge. And it's not. In the grand scheme, it actually isn't. But it all hinges on your perception, All right, I'll leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.